Just a couple sort of logistic things as we get started. First, I did this morning, I redid the video that I forgot to record yesterday, so the Chapter 8 and going over those programs. So that's done. It's being uploaded to YouTube right now. So far, I have literally done, in the first 3 days this week, 20 lectures. So in about, by the break hopefully, 19 of them will be out there. I still am trying to remove that 2 minutes of audio when I was talking with Stefan, and for some reason I'm having some problems with it. I'm following what Camtasia tells me to do, but I'm having some problems. I hope they get that done. I don't want to have to re-record that. Yeah. Well, what they have literally is it's called a CamRec project file, and they have these little things that are on there that are time holders basically for audio and for video. You can do them together or separately, and it's just 2 minutes. I want to remove the last 2 minutes, but when I go and drag it over, and then you have to drag it, mark it. It lets me mark it, but then when I drag to the end, the original mark goes away. You end up saving. I'm gonna have to resave that as another project file. Then I have to reproduce it. Then it becomes an MP4. Yeah, yeah, you might be right. All right. So with that, last time we went over chapters 1 and 2, and I'm not going to go over any of the material, especially in chapter 1, other than to say, remember that on page 14 now, that is an example of the site that we're going to be building in here. That's that Corba, Collectors of Really Bad Art. All right, so I'm going to expect you to do something like that. If you want to take some, for lack of better words, artistic prose and change it around and try some different stuff, I'd encourage you to do that. All right, I not only don't have any problem with that, I would encourage you to do it. Supposedly, you can go out to the publisher of this company, Pact Publishing, and get the source code. And I was going to try to do that, and then I wasn't going to put it out there, but I was going to put the images and stuff out there for you. But I followed their instructions, and I'm having some problems doing it. I can get right into the site, but then when I go in there and try to download the code, it tells me I can't. All right, so hopefully I can get that fixed, but we'll see. All right, so chapter 2, again, we didn't go over it the way that the book does because we didn't talk about hosting space or FTP, etc. We did go through the installing, and I'm going to run through that one more time with you, but very quickly, all right, and talk a little bit about the help, etc. But what I want to do today is I'm going to walk you through Chapter 3. And my hope is after I walk you through Chapter 3, it'll be around break time. All right, then rather than going on to Chapter 4, which I'd like to do next week, I'm just going to give you some time to just sit there and play with this stuff and take a look at what's in there. All right, so that's, like I said, what's on tap for today. And then what we'll do on Tuesday of next week is we'll go over Chapter 4. And again, it says web building basics, creating a site in an hour. It won't be an hour. We'll try different things. And I'll show you some of the trials and tribulations that I went through when I was going through the book, probably because you'll go through something similar yourself. We shouldn't be in any hurry to finish that because so far at least that's definitely the most important chapter in the book. So it would be nice if by the end of next week we were through Chapter 4. We may or may not be. I don't know. But if that comes to pass, then we're in real good shape too, because 2 weeks in, the book only has 12 chapters in it. We'll have 4 of them out of the way. I've told you before that in an ideal world, that by around week 9 or so, we'd be done with the book. So you'll be just working on a project yourself. All right, but we'll see. Again, we'll see how that works. All right. So let's see. Chapter 2 was page 17. So again, I don't want to go over it, but they do tell you what you need in order to host or to have Joomla. And the only reason I'm showing this to you is some people are like, well, I'll use my charter account or whatever. Probably not. All right. But we've got all this stuff available to us now in XAMPP. But you know what the problem with XAMPP is, and the problem with XAMPP is that it only works on the machine that you're on. Now, you may or may not be aware of this, you probably are, but over there we've got a couple servers. All right, and I've been told by IT, just wait till about week 3 before you come in there and start pestering us. All right, so I will. But what I'd like to do is set this up so when we get all done, we can try to FTP the stuff over to that server. That way you'd be able to get to it externally. All right, so once you're out of here. Now, just so you know, I've said this before. I know I said this to the first year people. I don't know if I told you or not. That will actually, we'll set up accounts and stuff for you, but it'll be pathed so that it'll say something like BTC test site or something. Because what they don't want here, what Blackhawk doesn't want, is you to go put some stuff out there where you're trying to make money. That's not what it's designed for. In fact, there'll be somebody monitoring it. I hope it's not me. But whoever does, if they find that, they're just taking it off right away. Because you're not supposed to do that. All right. Again, what you'll find if you look in here, notice that usually under http://www.joomla.org, you'll find almost everything Joomla out there. All right. Including really, really good help, a good forum, and some other stuff that they'll talk about a little bit later. As they said here on page 19, if you don't have hosting space, you can do something. As an example, you can do something like use XAMPP. Now, you may or may not be aware of this, but they changed the way that XAMPP is set up. So I don't know, a couple of you have been around here for a couple of years. You may have already taken XAMPP and installed it on your own machine, but they've changed it now. There's a product, as you can see right there, where it says Bitnami, and part of what XAMPP puts in there now is Bitnami. All right, they're trying to make things easier, but if you've ever done it before, it'll just be different. It's not that it's easier or harder, it's just different. All right, one of the reasons that I like to be able to use that, or use those servers over there, is if we look over here and you look at XAMPP, one of the things that's loaded on here is FileZilla, and I don't know if you know what FileZilla is or not. FileZilla is an example of an FTP program, File Transfer Protocol program. When you set it up, literally your screen will look like it's kind of separated into two. And on the left-hand side is everything that's on your desktop or whatever. And then if you've got an area on a server someplace, that's on the right side. And you're able to do a lot of dropping and dragging, literally just drag something from one side to the other. So quite often what people do when they set up a website is they set it up in a product like XAMPP, and they basically get the entire structure the way they want, and then they just mimic it on the server side. And that's what I'm hoping we can do, because it's nice for you to get some practice doing that also. All right, at least be exposed to it. So that if you're you go into interview and they say, have you ever done, what do you know about FTP, and you give them a blank look, that's probably not a real good thing. All right, just like with working with HTML, the author tells you here, you may want to go in and take a look, because your site may not look exactly the same in every browser. So as you're building the site that you'll do for your project, run it on several browsers. Again, that's one of the reasons that on the virtual desktop here, you have Chrome, you have Opera, you have Firefox, and you have IE. So you've got at least 4. You can't be all things to all people. And one of the things Mike said this the other day is, and it's true, a lot of times what people end up doing is they end up trying to create a site for one of the newer, if not the newest version of Chrome. It uses WebKit, it's used on a lot of browsers, and if it works in Chrome, it should it should at least be presentable in other browsers. All right, but some of them are quirky, and it's not just IE, and no, I'm not going to come in here and go ragging on IE. But the other thing too with some of that stuff is, I said this the other day, if there are 30 different browsers and each one averages 5 to 10 different versions, that's a lot of stuff to test. You could spend your entire career just testing it and tweaking it on every version of every browser that's ever been out there. And some of those versions of some of those browsers, those old ones, the percentage of people that are using them is really low, well less oftentimes than 1%. Again, I mentioned this to you earlier this week, I guess, that Microsoft has said that sometime in 2016 they're going to give up all support of all IEs through IE8. It's only going to be IE9 and beyond. And sometimes companies do the same kind of thing. Yeah, everybody's money's good, but if somebody's for some reason using IE2, I mean, come on. All right. So now here on the bottom of page 20, they're not talking about uploading or changing versions of the browser. They're talking about changing versions of Joomla. And somebody asked this, I don't remember, it was somebody over here had asked when there was the download button, and next to the download there was an upgrade, and that's what they're talking about. All right, but the upgrade going, for example, from version 3 to version 3.3 or something like that isn't that great. Reading the Joomla documentation, the last stable version that they had of version 2, which was 2.5, going from 2.5 to 3 was a major upgrade because they really changed the look and the feel. And the thing that's important about that is when they change the look and the feel of it, what they tell you is there's no guarantee that, especially if you used some custom Joomla 2.5 template, that it's going to even work in 3, much less work and look good. All right, but a lot of times if you go out and you buy a custom template, for example, for Joomla 2, they might have something on it where the person or the company that you bought it from will send you an email saying we now have it for version 3, and they may let you download it. They may charge you again or charge you a somewhat of a fee. I don't know. It all varies. It depends on the company. All right. Notice if your old site is still running Joomla 1.5, then the switch to 3 will be the serious migration process. There's no built-in functionality that takes care of the process. The main reason is the structure of the database has changed substantially since 2.5. There are tools. All right. I would just say, and again, I know this isn't going to affect a lot of you, but as you go on, if you like this package and you actually do something with it after you leave here, remember that as they go into Joomla 4, it'll be the same kind of thing. All right. And then they do the same kind of thing from 2.5 to 3.x. So this is what we went over last time. What did we do? We went out to joomla.org and we downloaded the file. Then, after we went out to wherever the download was saved, and then we went and moved it into HP Docs, if you remember that. So that was step 2. All right. We may have interspersed and done 3 instead of 2, and then 2 instead of 3, but it doesn't matter. We went in and into PHP MyAdmin and we created the database. Then we installed Joomla using the wizard. Okay, so that's what we did. We've already done that. All right, so we went down. Again, ours was 3.3, no biggie, and I already talked about the update, which is what ours had said on there and what the difference was. All right, so we did all this stuff. They show you how to do it in here, and they say that if you actually have a server, it might be faster to do an FTP on it. It might work faster. So they run through the steps. Again, I'm not going to run through them with you. All right, then they show you how to create the database, and they're assuming that you have little to no database experience. They ask that when you create the database that you create a new user. We're just using root. All right, and as long as IT is good enough to let us have some kind of a virtual desktop, there's not a problem using root and having no password because it's on your virtual desktop. So the only person who's using it anyway is you. And then we saw this, again, some of you saw this before I did, because if you remember, I was like a page behind, and as soon as I clicked that folder, boom, it brought up, this is the index.php for Joomla. And we went through this. Remember, it was the 3-step process. I'm not going to go through any of it, but I do want to mention that if I went through anything quickly, for instance, there's the main configurations page. If you don't like the explanation that was given in class, go back and read that. Because each one of the steps, and as far as what's in there, I tried to tell you it the best I could. All right, and the same kind of thing with step 2, which was setting up the database, as we mentioned. All right, just so you know, because many of you, I guess all of you in here are in the PHP class also, that when we get into PHP and we get a little bit later on in the class where we're working with databases, we're going to be using a lot of the MySQL commands, which start with MySQL I and then they have an underscore. All right, but those are the non-object oriented MySQL I commands. For every command that you have, so this would be whatever the command name is there. All right, so MySQL I underscore command. Virtually every one of those MySQL I underscore commands has got one that looks like this. It's got an arrow. What's the difference? That's object oriented. The other one is procedural based. They work the same way. To make it even more confusing, and if there's time we'll go through this, but normally there isn't. All right, there's also something that you can use that is not MySQL I specific, and it's PDO. You may or may not have heard of that, but it stands for PHP Data Objects. That's totally object oriented. All right, so I don't want to waste our time, but so there's the arrow there. So why would you want to use that? Because that'll handle any kind of database. These will handle only a MySQL database. This will handle not only any kind of database, but a comma-separated variable file, an Excel spreadsheet, and a lot of other things. So it's a lot more powerful, but there's more work to do when you do that too. All right, there's a binding and a lot of other stuff that you have to do with that you don't have to do. You get it basically for free when you use the MySQLi stuff. All right, again, in much the same way, all the stuff that was on that previous page, the database page, is explained right here on page 31 in the book. And some of the stuff in here, again, we've talked about. Root's our username, the password's blank. You already know the database name. The table prefix they show there is auto-generated. All right, and the backup doesn't matter unless you've installed Joomla before. All right, and that'll back up your old stuff. As it says here on page 32, then if all goes well, you're basically done. All right. Now, you may or may not be aware of this, but I just wanted to show you something before we actually get in and start on Chapter 3, and that is this. That if I come through here, and you'll notice I was playing with some stuff before, so. That might help. All right, that when you do this stuff and you come through here and you start playing with this is what we're going to do today, and we looked at this last time. And so this is the front end. If I type in administrator, I go to the back end. What Joomla is supposed to do for you, all right, is it's supposed to always remember your login and your password, which is nice because then you don't have to. You can disable that, but again, since we're using it on our own machines, I wouldn't. You can go into the system configuration and basically turn that off. But what's nice about doing that is, boom, you just log in. And unless you manually go in and change this, or you manually go in and change that, it should always be correct. And again, they go through some of the stuff that's in here also. We talked about this last time. We wanted to make sure, and hopefully everybody did this, that you chose the Learn Joomla English sample data. All right? And you know that you chose the right one because if you got done, it looks something like this. Now, did it look exactly like this? It looked pretty similar. All right, again, if I go back here, and I'll move back up. All right, it looks pretty similar, what you see right here, to what's in the book. But realize that as time goes on, it's the sample data, and Joomla reserves the right to change that a little bit or change it up. So the pictures are going to look similar. The stuff that's over here may or may not be the same. But it's not like it's a big worry one way or the other. It's just some sample stuff. This is what I mentioned before about going to the back end. This is what we're going to look at in just a minute. All right, we're going to actually go back into and look at the back end, which is the administrative side. Last thing that they mention in here on page 36. So the last thing that's really mentioned in here in this chapter, notice, got stuck? Again, http docs.joomla.org, and there's all sorts of stuff under joomla.org. You can go out there. It's kind of a clearinghouse. It's basically, it is an open source product, so they've got some pretty good help. There are forums out there, etc. This is an example of those quizzes that the author puts at the end of the chapter. I'm not going to go through that stuff. Again, the answers are in the back of the book if you want. All right. So in chapter 1, we just talked about what Joomla is, why you might want to use it, a little bit about what a content management system was, and then they showed some Joomla examples. In here, they went through the 4-step process for installing Joomla, and with that, I'm jumping into chapter 3. All right? And I'm taking for granted that if you have a question, you're going to ask. Okay? All right. I had a guy who came up to me at the end of class yesterday, one of the first-year students, and he said, well, I had a lot of questions, but I didn't ask. And it was the guy who was up here. I don't know if you guys saw that guy who was up here talking to me at the end of class, and hat on. And I said, well, why didn't you ask? He said, well, I didn't want to ruin your tape. And I said, no, that's not ruining my tape. I said, what I have to remember is when people have questions, because you can't hear it on the tape, to repeat the question. All right, yes. Then we may have to do a reinstall. I don't know how that got interspersed with Eclipse. I've never seen that before. It didn't happen on mine, so I don't really know what happened. I just closed it. I didn't remove it though. All right, so it may still even be under there. I don't really know, but I don't think it is. All right. Again, I'm only going for about a half an hour, so we should be able to get rid of or get through most of this stuff. And so if you do have to reinstall, you'll have time to do it today. All right. So this is chapter 3. If you're following along, we're on page 40, or I'm sorry, 39. And notice what they talk about in the chapter. They give you a lot of fluff. In other words, they equate using a CMS to a coffee machine. If you've ever looked at, like, for example, a customized espresso machine, where you go in there and, you can press different buttons and get different kinds of espresso or cappuccino or whatever, they say that's kind of what a CMS is, and they'll talk about that. Again, some of the advantages of building a website in Joomla, etc. Then at the end, what you see in this last part, the last bullet that's right there, is they have you go in, as it says, and they have you publish a simple piece of content, add an extension, and tweak a few things. All right? So that's what we do at the end. Now, I maybe have said this to you before, maybe I have not. I don't remember. That's why I'm saying it to you right now, and that is this. Anybody know what this is? If you go to, we might have even looked at it in here, what lipsum.com is. You know what that is? Yeah, it's garbage text. So for instance, if I wanted to create a web page and I wanted it to have let's make it 8 paragraphs in it. All right, I could put an 8 there, generate lorem ipsum, and there's 8 paragraphs. So I can just copy them and throw them in. The only reason I'm telling you that is what they tell you to do in this chapter when you create your own page is they have you just put a sentence in, which isn't, really a whole heck of a lot. You might want to go in here and at least throw in a paragraph or 2. All right, you can type it in yourself too. I mean, sometimes people just type in, this is a test. Then they copy it 30 times. But this is a little bit easier way of doing it. Okay, well, I know that lipsum.com doesn't. All right, that's why I said, if you want to go out there, you don't have to do that either, but if you want to go out there, that's just another thing that you can do. So, all right. So again, as I've said to you, they talk in here on page 40 about the fact that there's a lot of dynamicity to using a CMS. The fact is you can make changes fairly easily. You can make them from anywhere. You can give anyone you want the authority to make changes. And once you make the changes, you can instantaneously see the result. And that's what they're talking about in here. All right. And, yeah, in the world of this content management, technically, yeah, web pages have ceased to exist. But that said, that's not the way it looks to your end user. Because if you looked at some of those sites that we brought up the other day, they still pretty much look like a website. All right, by and large, every one of them did. So this is what I mentioned before. They say that a CMS is kind of like the espresso machine where, it's kind of, ideally you can give everybody what they want. And then they get into the benefits here. We talked a little bit about this in a different class. All right, and they say this is, you know, it's more or less not what can you do, it's what can't you do type of an idea. All right. Now, this is the important part before we go in and look at these three examples. What they'll do is they explain the whole screen setup to you on the front end. Then we'll go into the back end and they'll explain the screen setup to you on the back end. And it's not that any of this has to be memorized. It wouldn't be worth it anyway, but just that you have some kind of a basic idea of what they're talking about. So notice on the bottom here of page 42, they mention that the base layout has the main content block, as many function blocks as you like. All right, so there's the base layout, the main content block, and as many function blocks as you like. So they're breaking it up here. And you can break this up any way you want. All right, so you've got the top area, you've got a side area here, and this can be one area or it can be multiple areas. This can go down as long as you want. If you remember the first site that I showed you the other day, it was, or maybe it was the second one, the education one was pretty long, kind of equated it to Blackhawks. All right, so you can do whatever you want to do with it. Then they explain here what's in each one of these. Again, I don't want to read this to you. What's a little bit confusing, and when we get into it, and I'm going to warn you in advance that I'm probably going to screw it up when we get to this point, is as it says, the base layout also contains positions. What does that mean? When you start to put stuff in, for instance, they're going to talk about a lot about using position 7 in this book. That means you want it over here. On the other hand, I think it's position 3. It would take this and it would put it on the left-hand side. See what I'm saying? So you've got control over where you set things up. And as you can probably tell, it can markedly change the way that the website looks. If I decided I want a block down here and a block down here, that would cut my content area down and it would change the look and feel of the site. All right, so that's what they'll be talking about. So number 2 is basically the content area, as they say. All right, and it's the middle area of the page. Number 3 are the blocks around the content area. Really, it's the one on the bottom, and it's the one here, and it's the one here, etc. You can have as many of those as you want. All right. For instance, you can sit there and you can not vary, but fairly simply set up a navigation bar over here that has navigations, and you can repeat it over here. You can take the upper level stuff that you've got there and put it over here. There's a lot of different things that you can do with it. That's why I said when we get to the point where you're doing your own site, you know, I don't mind if you guys bounce ideas off one another or whatever, but the goal would be that if there's 10 of you in here, everyone's would look different. All right. You'd all put your own little spin on there. All right. Your own creative niche, whatever you want to call it. So, starting on page 44, they go into the front end and the back end. And again, you're all smart enough to realize this. The front end is what everybody sees, including the user. The back end is just what the administrator or anyone that the administrator gives rights to. It's what they see. All right. So there's the front end. And they'll get to the, well, I guess they'll get to the back end in just a couple minutes. All right. It's not quite the back end there, but we will see it. All right. So, and what's the front end here on page 46? Again, notice what they've done here is, again, they're using pictures and they're numbering them, all right, to try to show you what's what. And as I said before, it's not important that you memorize this stuff, but you should at least have an idea of where certain things are and kind of what they're referred to as. So if you notice here, in fact, what I'll do is I'll just use the book and I'll use the picture here on the screen. As it says, number 1 is the search box. And it literally will do that. It searches your entire site. All right. Number 2 is the top menu that you see right here. All right. Number 3, that's the header image. You don't like that image, you can change it. You don't want a header image, you don't have to have one. Number 4 is the main body of the home page. All right. Number 5 are the breadcrumbs down at the bottom. You get breadcrumbs for free. I think everybody knows what breadcrumbs for a site are. Again, if you don't, then just ask. Number 6, as it says, 2 different menus. And number 7 is a login form. Just so you know. As an example, you don't have to have every one of these 7 things that are in here. Let's say you set up your home page to look like this. You probably wouldn't want the login page on every single page on your site. So you can set it up and just tell Joomla, it's only on the home page that I want that number 7. All right, I don't want it on any other page. So depending on, you can use CSS and whatever, then either this wouldn't be here and you'd have a blank space there, or you could drag this down or whatever. All right, we'll get into a lot of that different stuff as we go on in here. All right, and the author does mention to you too, and I'm not going to read, but it says the sample data we're using in this book is the best choice because it's got the most comprehensive set of stuff in it. All right. Okay, so time to do something. So what they say here is let's start actually taking a look. So it says there, tour the sample site. Well, we've already done some of this stuff. So if I come in here, what they're saying is just come into here. All right, so again, I'm on page 48 in the book. They say enter the URL for the site. All right, and if for whatever reason, I think it's the way that I actually came in here. Yours might, if you're smart, you only have to put Joomla 33, but I have to put all this in there. Whoops, not that. All of this in there because I've got it right here. And again, I can fix that. It's not a big thing. I don't care. It's not a big thing one way or the other. But what they have you doing here is this. They say, well, why don't you go in and click Getting Started? And you notice how everything looks the same except the content changes. All right? And then they ask you to do using Joomla. And they say, well, look, if you're using Joomla, notice there's a sub menu then there, using extensions. All right? And you notice that the look and the feel stays the same. All right? And then they'll have you come in and say, oh, and if you go to a different sample site, notice that what you've got here, they have you go to Fruit Encyclopedia. And you notice how it really changes. All right, I can click sample sites again and look where I'm back. All right, now I can go to growers. All right, and I guess that's still fruit site. I can go back here again and, you see how it changes. There's a limited amount of stuff, but there's some stuff in there, so to speak. So what I just did was I entered the URL, went into it, right, explored it by clicking the About Joomla and the Getting Started. I did both those. I went into the Using Joomla and the Using Extensions to show you how the stuff changed. And none of that was hard, I get that. But they have you go in there and explore some of the content. Then they have you go in there and explore some of the content in that fruit site. All right? Am I right in assuming that you can all do that on your own? All right. So what I want to do is just take a couple minutes, and it's 8:35, and again, ideally we'll do this in about 20 minutes or so. But I'm on page 52, taking control, administering your site in the back end. All right. So again, I'm going to go back to where we were, and in here, notice that once I started moving around, it now shows me where I am. All right. And as you can see right there, this is powered via PHP. But I want to get back to where I am here, all right, just basically on my home page. And now I want to come in here and literally type in administrator. All right, that gets me from the front end into the back end. Gives me the intermediate you got to spell it right though. Administrator. All right. And again, if yours doesn't look like this, you may have to log in once, but afterwards it should save it for you. All right. So I'm logging in. And okay. All right, so I'm in. This is the back end. Just a couple things as we get started, just so you know. And the majority, if not everything that I'm telling you is that right now is going to be explained in here. But just a couple kind of short of these. Let's say that I was into components and I went down to news feeds and maybe did something else, and I'm like, geez, I don't even know where the heck I am. This is going to happen to you, all right? If you click the little Joomla logo up there, that always gets you back to the home page, all right, on the back end. And if I decide at any time I want to go back to my site, I can always click the name of my site right here. Now I'm back at the site. So you can always bounce back and forth that way, all right? Bad news is now I got to type in administrator again, but all right, but I'm back there. There's also a view site that's down here. Can you see that where I've got the mouse? See that? You can do that and move there too. All right? So they start talking about it and they start showing you what's in here. And if I turn up to page 54, I'm going to just bounce back and forth between what's here and what's in the book. But if you look on page 54, they again try to show you everything that's in here. This is until you really get used to using it, and I'm still learning just like you are, okay? But until you really get used to using it, some of the stuff in here is duplicated. Sometimes you can do something either from here or from here. So which one do you use? Yes. You know, try them both and see which one you're more comfortable with. All right? You're going to end up using the stuff that's on the top a lot because that's kind of your window to the world. So that's what they're going to explain first, are the different menu options that are at the top. Also, as you choose a different menu option at the top, your submenu stuff over here is going to change also. That should make sense to you. So will the stuff that's in here. And some, you know, they also, if you notice up here, they show you in part 4 that's right here, they show you the shortcut list. You won't always see a shortcut list. It'll depend where you are and how deep you are into here as far as whether or not you're even going to see a shortcut list. Just so you're aware of that. So as they say there, all right, I'm just going to leave the picture up there. The top menu, they explain what each one of these things are. So you can look up here, or if you're in your admin interface, look up there. System, set global configuration options and perform system maintenance. The last exercise they have you do in this chapter, and I'm going to ask that you do it. You don't have to change it if you don't want to, but they ask you to go into system, and under the global configurations, the amount of time, again, that this is set up before your admin session expires is 15 minutes. They ask you to change it to 45. All right, you don't have to do that if you don't want it, but I want you to go through the steps of doing it so you at least have done that. Again, that's all done under system. Users, as it says there, manage users, manage access rights, etc. Menus, add and arrange menus and menu links. Content, that's where you come in and either add article content, you change article content, you can delete some article content in there, etc. This is going to be a little weird too, and please listen to this, that when you delete something in Joomla, it's not removed. After you delete it, you have to go and tell it to trash it. And the reason they do that is when you delete it, just do a straight delete, all you're doing is hiding it. And you might want to do that with the idea that either A, you want to bring it back later, or B, for instance, maybe it's a page on an e-commerce site and you're putting something on sale, and then it goes off sale, but you know it's going to go back on sale again. All right? Or something else is going to go on sale next week, and you could probably use what you have and just swap out the image and the price. All right? You're going to learn all that stuff as we go on in here. All right. Components, as it says, managing special features. You're going to learn in here how to create things like contact lists. That's really not very difficult. Okay? Extensions. Extensions allow you, again, to either add existing Joomla extensions that are here and to go out and add existing extensions that are out online. There are thousands of them out there, and there are thousands of free ones out there. All right? And there's also ones that you pay for. And again, then there's the help. As it says, the top menu, this is the bottom of the page. The top menu is the one you'll use over and over again when working on your site. And it'll become pretty straightforward to you once you do it. That's why I said, even though we're early, even though we're at the end of the first week, I still think it's important that you go in and play with it yourselves. I mean, I think you learn more. You know, I give you the basis, but I think you're going to learn more by going in there and doing it yourselves. All right, then they explain what each one of these components are. All right, and again, I've already kind of done that, but you know, they talk about what the different stuff in here is. Again, that's your main menu. All right, number 2 there, that's your submenu and your system menus. Number 3 that's right here, that's your information panel. Number 4 is your shortcut list, and number 5 is kind of your breadcrumb preview and information list. All that stuff is explained in detail right here. All right, on pages 55. I guess page 55. All right. Then on 56, they don't tell you this first, but so I want to just show it to you. It's not a big thing. But all of a sudden on page 56, if you look there, wow, the whole interface has changed. They want you to go to Content and Article Manager. And if you do that, now your screen should look like what you see in the book on page 56. From here again, there's existing stuff. If I wanted to go and change an existing article, I could click on it and bring it up. I could make changes. I could remove it. I could do a lot of stuff to it. All right? And we're going to look at a lot of that. But in your book, on page 56 in the book, the author explains basically what all the different stuff in here that you can do. Okay? All the different kinds of things. Now, so let's take a look at some of them. New is what you'd expect. If you want to create a new article, boom, you click that. Edit, it'll bring up a list, so you can edit an existing article. All right. You can also edit the existing, the user data that comes with it, the sample data, if you want to do that. Publish does just that. All right. If you haven't published it, the thing is there, but it will not show on your page. So again, a lot of times when people are testing things, they have it out there, but they don't actually publish it. All right. Until they're really happy with the way that it looks, and they run it by other people. If something is published, you could do the equivalent of taking it offline by unpublishing it. All right, it's making it invisible to people on the front end. Featured, you've seen this, haven't you? You go out to a site, maybe there's a featured product or a featured this or a featured type of that. You can mark an article as being featured. All right. Archive. When you archive articles, what it does is it basically puts it in a special area of Joomla where it's not gone. But a lot of times what people do, for instance, let's say that on a site, I was going to have, the site's been there for 10 years. And we were a very progressive site, rather. And we have all of our newsletters for the last 10 years. And all of those newsletters are in PDF format. So what I might want to do is archive them and set up a simple menu that says, under archives that says, our newsletter, and then separate it by year. So if somebody literally wanted to go back there 10 years and look at a 10-year-old newsletter, they could. All right. You can still access it. You still access it fairly quickly, but as you'd probably guess, as the site gets bigger, it's going to take a second or two for it to come up, but doesn't take much time at all. All right. Check in. It says, and I haven't done anything with that one. It says unlock articles that are currently marked as checked out. Using that option, the article is unlocked and users. So again, it's if you have multiple people who have the ability to go in and make changes to the same article. So if you were working, if there were a group of administrators on a site, you can kind of check it out and you can set it up so you can make changes and no one else can until you're done. What you don't want to have is the same kind of thing with a database, which is what this is. So you don't want people overwriting each other's changes all the time. That's what they're talking about here. Trash, as it says, send an article to the trash to delete it. We'll get into that in more depth of coverage. Batch is kind of interesting. Notice what it says. Rather than making a change on an article and, I got to make it on this article and, I got to make it on this article, what you can do is you can select any number of articles you want. So if I accidentally took 6 articles and put them into the wrong folder, the easiest way to move them to another folder is go to the folder they're in, highlight all of them, hit the batch button, and choose the move and tell it where you want to move them to. Okay? Again, the best way to learn that is to do it. And you're working with sample data. All right? So I'm not worried about you screwing this kind of stuff up. All right, options, as it says, you can work with some general settings. This might drive you a little nuts, and I'm going to tell you here. This is a Joomla 3 book, and I don't know if they've actually made changes to the interface, but occasionally, I'll try to tell you when it happens, but occasionally the author will say, this is over here. No, it's not. Sometimes they'll say it's on the left, and it's actually on the right, so it's either moved or it was a misprint. I don't know. I don't really care. But all I'm saying is, as time goes on, in Joomla, I think there's zeal to try to make this easier for you to use. They may move some stuff around so they think it's in a more optimal way. So something may have been changed since the book was written. All right, it's a new book, but it's not an exceptionally new book. And maybe the screenshots look different in the new version that just came out. I don't know. All right, and again, help, so you go and use the online help. All right. So this is the stuff that hopefully, so this screen right here is the one that we see here. All right. And as the author says, this is the different stuff that's in there. Now, the only thing I do want to mention, and again, you're all smart, you all get this. Notice, if you click save, you stay in the current window. Save and close gets you out of the current window, so it backs you up one level from where you were. Sometimes you want to add multiple articles. So rather than doing a save and close and having to open it again, you do a save and new. So what that's going to do is save the article you're working on and open up a new one so you can start on. All right. Save as copy. So if you wanted to copy the article, etc. And I mean close and help, they're pretty obvious. So getting your feet wet, start administering your site. So again, I'm on page 58 here. There's like 66 pages in the chapter. I'd like to finish this, even if we go closer to 9. Then take a break, take as long as you want. If you're going to leave, whatever. And then come back and play with this for the rest of the class. All right? Or if you want to, I think I put it out there already. I think I put what we're going to be working on in ASP. I believe that's out there. I believe I put the Java stuff out there. And I'm not going to lie to you either that there's an ulterior motive of Jeff giving you some time. That gives Jeff some time to take the stuff that's out on the P drive and copy it over into onto Blackboard so I can try to keep the stuff up as much as possible. I couldn't believe last night I went and threw, literally, my kids were, my one daughter was just laughing. She goes, "My God, you're on YouTube." All right. But I went and grabbed 9 different things and basically uploaded them all to YouTube. Some of them, like I said to you the other day, I don't understand the idea behind it because I checked 2 files. One was like 56 meg and one was like 65 meg. The smaller one took 30 minutes. The longer one took about 2 minutes. So I don't know enough about YouTube, and I don't really care to find out. You know, my brain's it's swelling too much as it is. So I don't really care about finding it out. So, all right. So it says there 3 types of back-end tasks. So again, we're talking about the administrative side. It says roughly the 7 objects consist of 3 clusters, and you'll use them on a varying amount of time depending on what you're doing and when you're doing it. So it says let's try out an example of each. So again, the author will have you do content management example where you create and publish content, an extension where you add the module, and a site management example, all right, where you change that system setting. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. All right, I'm going to walk you through what they have in there. I'm not going to do that. All right, I'm going to let you do that. Okay? But next week before we start chapter 4, then I'm going to go back and do that. All right? Because to be honest with you, I think you're better off following the steps in the book on your own, whereas I might screw something up. And I'd rather have you do it yourselves than go back and just make sure that everybody got it. I think we can do that in 10 or 15 minutes on Tuesday of next week and then start on chapter 4. All right. So content management example. It says let's create some content. So they have you come in here in the article manager. They have you come in and click the new button that's in there and you get put here. This is a very simple WYSIWYG editor. And I believe, I could be wrong, I believe the editor that they use here it's called like TinyMCE. All right. But there's also, and they'll get to it later on in the book, there's another editor that's made just for Joomla. They use this one, I believe, is because this is the one they had when they started it, and so a lot of people got very comfortable with it. All right. But there's another one that's got additional options and additional functionality to it that they'll talk about that you could load that one later as an extension. And use that one if you want to. All right. When you bring it up, notice what it says in here. You'll put a title in here. This will basically be where it'll be saved. All right. The stuff in here I don't think I really have to go over very much because most of it, is pretty self-evident as far as bolding, etc., and as far as putting stuff where you want to put it, etc. There's a couple things that are in here that are a little different. All right. And they're the things that are down here. And when you look, notice down here, there's actually 2 ways that you can bring images into an article. What the author suggests, you may or may not agree with this, but what the author suggests is if this is your page, I'm just drawing a square on the board. So if this is your page, and on your page, maybe your desire is to have more or less a thumbnail right here, okay? And you've got a little thumbnail, and you've got maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs of text, and it's just hitting one of those options there. I believe it's this one, but we're going to find out in just a minute. I think it's the little horseshoe looking thing. That's going to put more ... All right, and the author will suggest in here, if you're going to do that, that be a thumbnail. All right, and you possibly, you have both a thumbnail and the actual image itself So when you click the more, then maybe on a page by itself or on a bigger page, then you've got the bigger one. Or maybe you just want the thumbnail. And I mentioned this to you the other day, but again, I'm trying to be complete here, that another site, I just showed you Lorem Ipsum, but, and there's other ones. But go out and look at this. Just makeathumbnail.com. So literally, you can go out and you can find any image that you want, and notice there's not a whole lot of options that you have, but typically 100 by 100 is not a bad size for a thumbnail. If you do that, if you go and you browse, you can browse things that are out there on the web, you can browse your own stuff. I don't want you to grab content you're not supposed to grab, but there's enough free images out there. All right, and there's even some sample images that are here in Joomla that you can use. And if you grabbed one of those and decided you wanted to make it, then you choose 100 by 100. When you click make a thumbnail, it saves it right out on the web for you. All right, and the address will literally come in here. Then you highlight that address, put it in the address bar, hit enter, and there it is, and then save it. That's it. All right. But I end up using that a lot. I will tell you there's a lot of bad ones out there. Be real leery. All right, and I'm being real honest, because before I found Make a Thumbnail, I downloaded and was using another one. All right, and it crashed my system. IT had to rebuild it. All right, and I don't know why, but that was the only thing that I had on there that I didn't have on there before. I took it off, I uninstalled it, and I never had another problem afterwards. So if you say, are you sure that's what it was? It sure seems like it. I never had a problem before it. I never had a problem after I uninstalled it. So they say leave the category box as it is. It's okay to have it assigned to sample data articles. And again, we'll learn more about that later. Then they say make sure status is set to published. Set featured to yes. What that means is by setting featured to yes is after you create your article, it's going to go right here. Does that make sense? That's kind of its big place. That's its feature. So that's what they're telling you right there. All right, you run through that, then they explain what happened. All right, so I'd like you to try that. So that's the first thing that we do. Then, starting on the bottom of page 60, they come in and they ask you to add a module. All right, when you do this, as it says, when you go to Extensions, Module Manager, and you click New, you're going to see a list of things like this. Again, really, be leery of the fact that yours may not look exactly like this, because if things were added, there might be more things in there. All right. So, for instance, if let's just say they added a couple more things that started with D, you might not even see on the the first page most read content, but it is alphabetized, so you should be able to find it. All right. It says click the name of the module you want, most read content. This is one of the first things I mentioned before, so please look. This is where it gets to be a little confusing. As you start looking through here, try as best you can to follow the actual instructions as they're given in here. Because what you might find in here is there's more than one position 7. And if you choose the one, don't choose the one that they mentioned, it'll still be there, but, excuse me, it might be in some other part of the screen. So just follow the steps and you'll be all right. They'll talk about this more in later chapters. If you do that, then they also have you come in and assign that to the main menu. And when you do that, I believe that this is what you actually come in and add. So let's see, do they have a thing under here actually that says popular? No. So you're going to add that. All right. Then they again explain to you exactly what you did up in here. Then finally is what I mentioned to you before. They come back and they have you reset that site setting. So you go under the control panel, system, global configuration, system, which is underneath there. And when you do that, what you'll find is if you scroll down towards the bottom, there's a couple things, and one of them says session lifetime. That's set to default to 15 minutes. It just says 15 on it. They want you to change it to 45. If you don't like that, if you want it up for your entire session, just set it to 120. So then it'll be, once you get on in class, it's going to be on for the whole 2 hours. All right, and that's it. And they say, try some more stuff. And that's, like I said, what I'd like you to do. So this is what we went through. I'm not going to read this to you. Again, they're still trying to sell you on Joomla and content management systems. So I'll give you some time to do that. And then starting on Tuesday of next week, we'll go into this web building basics, creating a site in an hour. if I do get the code, all right, I'll probably share it with you anyway. Okay, but I'd still like you to do your own. I think there's a lot to be said to do that. Plus, if you've done your own and you got it done, if the only other assignment you're going to have is to build your own website, if you've already built one, it'll make it a whole heck of a lot easier. All right. Any questions on anything we went over? All right, so we are through the first 3 chapters. Again, I'll go back again and run through those steps on Tuesday for the 3 things that they wanted you to add. So we'll do that first, ideally in 15 or 20 minutes, 30 max, 10 for each one, but the last one literally takes about 30 seconds. So then we're going to go into chapter 4. All right, and I realize that, you know, you may even think, well, you're moving really slow or you're moving really fast, depending on your point of view. But we are going to slow it down in chapter 4. Because as we build this site, I'd like to build it slowly so as things happen that either work or don't work, we can sit and talk about them. All right, so I'm done.